judgment of the court. You will recall that he even insofar as to send federal troops to schools and universities in the South. Now, surely that's the way that the Secretary General of the United Nations ought to behave. And I think that the Secretary General of the United Nations is guilty of serious misconduct in his failure to even attempt to implement the advisory opinion of the International Justice. Let me end by saying that I think this has serious implications for the rule of law in international affairs. We have a situation in which the United Nations, the Security Council in particular, the Secretary General, refused to even acknowledge, let alone implement, the opinion of the International Court of Justice dealing with human rights issues and international humanitarian law. So I think it's a very serious threat to the rule of law in international affairs. It's also something that seriously affects the credibility of the United Nations, particularly the Security Council and the Secretary General. I have seen the consequences of this in the Human Rights Council. The Human Rights Council is accused of bias in the sense that it spends an inordinate amount of time dealing with Israel and it fails to deal with more important human rights issues, perhaps such as Zimbabwe, Burma, Myanmar, Sudan. But I think in order to understand this, one must see it from the perspective of the developing world. What the developing world is in effect saying is if the West is prepared to apply a double standard in respect of Israel and to condone Israel's violations of human rights, don't expect us, the developing world, to take action against our members in the developing world who are violating human rights. We are going to apply a double standard as well. So I believe that the human rights movement, which has been one of the most important developments in international law since the Second World War, is now seriously threatened by the divisions between the West, the developing world, over the compliance with international law by Israel. And I'd like to leave you with that thought this evening. Thank you.
Let me see, possibly a show of hands. How many of you read the International Court of Justice ruling? Yeah? We definitely have a minority here at Berkeley. So your assignment, your homework, is to actually go in and see it, read it for yourself. Right? That's what a university is all about, for us to go, read the material, understand what it's saying, and then if you feel that there's something that you could act upon, then we could pass it and actually convey it to the others. Because in the U.S., many people are not attuned to the need for bringing about change in U.S. policy relative to Palestine and relative to the Israel-Palestine conflict. Until we take ourselves seriously, take the materials, act upon it, and convey it to the others, then we actually are not using what's available there for us to be advocates on behalf of human rights and International Court of Justice opinion. So my recommendation to you, as we heard Professor John Dugard speaking about this important issue, for us to do it, and we have no excuse. You could Google it right here while you're sitting, right? Because I know many of you will sit in that class and you Google in the back of the class. So you should go and Google an important part and don't engage in Googling something that is not useful. Or next, also another piece, both will be speaking tomorrow at Santa Clara University. Right? I'm also a very big supporter of technology where it's useful. So if you have a Facebook or if you have an account that you could direct your friends in the South Bay to attend the lecture tomorrow at Santa Clara University, please do so.
Meyer Theater.
What is it?
Meyer Theater.
Meyer Theater at Santa Clara University. That's how we could tell our people that we are affiliated with. I know many of you have Facebook and I know you text message all the time. Right? So here, use the technology to bring about social change and use the technology to bring about change in the Palestine Israeli conflict by making sure that the event tomorrow at Santa Clara University is well attended. Our second speaker for the evening is Professor Norman Finkelstein. He received his doctorate in 1988 from the Department of Politics at Princeton University. That, I don't know how they gave you the PhD at the time, that is something that we could discuss. For many years he taught political theory and the Israel-Palestine conflict. He is currently an independent scholar, and actually an independent scholar who speaks truth to power. Because if you speak truth to power, you most often will end up being an independent scholar. And that is a celebrated title. Being an independent scholar is a celebrated title because you have the ability to give judgment on the issues that you see in the world today. Because often in the current period, and I think we could see the university being transformed on the one hand as a corporate entity. We're selling departments by the million. If you have a few million, I'll sell you a department. All right? While on the other hand, the wedding of the university into the military-industrial complex. That's why if you want to make money at the university, just be sure to study science and hook up yourself with a big lab that produces the weapons of mass destruction. And I always say Berkeley is number one. We're the number one university in the world in the research, production, manufacturing, and promotion of weapons of mass destruction. Alright? If you think about it, chemical and biological weapons, we are the best at it. We have developed the best nuclear weapons in the world here in Berkeley. We're number one. Not in the football game, but in the production of weapons of mass destruction. Professor Finkelstein had many books. His most recent book, which would be published in 2009, and I'll bet you he would be attacked for it. Farewell to Israel, the coming breakup of American Zionism. So basically prepare yourself for the attack that will be coming to our independent scholar, Professor Norman Finkelstein. You
Can you hear me okay? People in the back, can you hear me? Oh, good. So we'll just use so much. Well, thank you for having me, and I'm genuinely pleased to be able to share the panel with Professor Dugard. I'm not generous usually with my compliments, but he genuinely deserves it. Anyone who read his reports from 2001 to this past year will know that they were models of meticulousness, seriousness, and I have to say I respect they were also models of caution. And I also had a chance for some things I was writing to read through his scholarly publications, and although they were probably a little bit too specialized for me, the parts that I understood were very impressive, and I'll be quoting from some of it this evening. I'm going to be speaking on the broader issues that the International Court of Justice raised in its advisory opinion, namely before it was able to reach the opinion that the war was illegal, the International Court had to lay out some fundamental principles of international law on the basis of which they reached their opinion. And I'll be speaking in those fundamental principles. I want to begin with a quote I came across while reading